Even the supply chain, we have a team out in China and Mexico that source materials directly. But what's amazing is you bring all that under one roof, it enables us to start using techniques that other industries use.
So the topic for today's show is solving America's housing affordability crisis. And I know that's something that you've been working on in this company to make housing more affordable. And I also know you're bringing on investors to help be part of that process. So talk to us. Where's the company's focus right now? Where's your attention these days? How are you getting more investors? Talk to us about all that.
Yeah. So I guess I'll talk about our focus first, and then we'll talk about investors second. Right now, we're really heavily focused into improving the production system. What's interesting in the world of construction, we have a variety of stakeholders. Typically, you have an owner that owns the building. You have a general contractor that coordinates all of the construction. You have a developer that finds a new site and puts that all together. You have subcontractors that do all the work, like the electricians, the plumbers, HVAC. Then you have a supplier that supplies materials for the site, and you have manufacturers produce those materials. One of the first things we did was take all of that in under one roof. So we own the buildings with the general contractor all the way down to we're manufacturing things like wall panels, precast concrete, so giant beams, columns, and planks that you see barreling down the highway, and they establish it all into a building. Even the supply chain, we have a team out in China and Mexico that source materials directly. But what's amazing is you bring all that under one roof, it enables us to start using techniques that other industries use. If you look at manufacturing, over the last 60 years, manufacturing has improved labor productivity by 760%. Agriculture has improved by 1,500%. Do you have any guess what construction has done?
I cheated because I've seen your video, but it's something phenomenally low, like 10%.
Yeah, it's essentially nothing. It's 10%. Good work. It's terrible. And so if we just partner with people in these other industries to apply the techniques and technologies that they've used into our own space, we see radical improvement. And so one group we're working with right now is Toyota. And they're helping us improve those systems. But what's crazy is because of those improvements, you can take a 16-month project and bring it down to 9 months. And one of the key ways that you can do that is by breaking the building into smaller chunks. So we look at a batch or a unit getting done. And right now, we are completing another apartment unit every 5 hours. At Toyota, they produce a car every 57 seconds, I think it is. So we still got a ways to go to get to that level. But in construction, I don't know anyone who's thinking about construction work this way. And it's incredible when you bring that kind of technology and those techniques in play, you can make massive improvements. Now, on the investor side, the thing we found, found interesting is this past year or two, inflation has risen. And with rising inflation comes higher interest rates, which come where banks become more hesitant about loaning proceeds out. So our latest project is in Minnesota here. It's a $100 million building. Typically, a bank would fund $75 million of that. Our construction costs are around $68 million. So because our costs are already pretty low, banks are willing to fund more than the total cost of the project, which is amazing. But now banks are down at 55%. And so we're going and reaching out and finding investors to help bridge some of that gap in the future. And the way we're doing it is we're building on a platform. One thing we thought would be really interesting is, can we remove the bank and in some sense become the bank for end users? And so we're creating a platform right now. We're getting our approvals through the SEC, where it's not actually a bank, but it feels like a bank. You have an account, you can put money in, you can take money out. You get a rate of return that's higher than any bank account that you can get. And what's cool is we're giving the investors the cost that we would have paid to the bank. So the investor is getting not only their rate of return, but also all of the bank's profit. So we're cutting out the middleman and we're giving the investors that cash.
And so in this particular example, that means you need to raise the 100 million, or would you even have to raise more than that?
No, we don't need to raise 100 million. We need to raise enough for construction financing. So in this example, it's about 12 million. And that's what makes it a pretty interesting scenario, because it's fairly low risk because the costs are so low. If the value of the building drops by 20%, which is a pretty high margin in real estate, it's still valued at 80 million, which is more than all the capital we raised for that project.
Ah, got it.